At 8:12 a.m., right as the fog was starting to burn off the street and the air smelled like wet cedar and coffee, a logging truck big enough to flatten a double-wide came crawling up Foxglove Lane. And there, just like some bad punchline, sat Belinda Caro's pearly white Range Rover sprawled across my gate, perfectly perpendicular, blocking the whole damn entrance like she was auditioning for her own reality show. The driver barely slowed, just eased up, brakes sighing loud enough for the neighbors to peek out their windows, and that fancy hood crumpled like an empty Coke can at a cookout. Somewhere behind me, I heard someone whisper, half horrified, half gleeful, "Oh, my HOA." And for a second, I just stood there and watched the chaos, feeling like maybe the universe really does keep receipts. Let me back up a sec, because if you don't know Foxglove Estates, you might not get just how weirdly intense life here can be. I'm Rowan Beck, 39, homeowner, a guy who alphabetizes his socket sets for fun and knows exactly how many extension cords I own. Foxglove's got all the charm of rustic elegance, but the peace of a Cold War, thanks mostly to an HOA that rules with a velvet-covered iron fist, and Belinda, who acts like she's starring in her own little suburbia-themed sitcom. Blonde, Pilates all-star, queen of the violation notice, Belinda treats the bylaws like they're constitutional amendments and driveways like they're under constant threat of foreign invasion. I swear, this woman measures grass at sunrise and fires off angry emails so fast. She might as well run a course in passive aggression. My crimes. Apparently, practical crimes. A workshed she thought was too industrial, gravel that crunched wrong, and, worst of all, a privacy gate at the end of my driveway, which, according to Belinda, was basically an act of war. The gate drove her nuts. She called it separatist, like I was some rebel plotting to secede from the neighborhood. Her solution was simple. She started parking her Range Rover across my gate, always just for a minute, which in HOA time means at least 47, sometimes 90. She'd crank up her classical music, windows down, chin up like she could absorb culture by osmosis, and just sit there. I tried ignoring her, but the violation letters started piling up, like chain mail from some medieval bureaucracy. She circulated next-door posts about my industrial traffic, really just Amazon and the occasional landscaping crew, and once told me my wheelbarrow displayed performative utility, which, to this day, I still don't fully understand. She called the sheriff, twice, to report commercial activity. Both times, it was me planting tomatoes while listening to history podcasts. When that didn't break me, she turned to daily blockades. Every morning, 7:58, she'd line up across my gate, phone camera ready to catch any slip, smiling like she was keeping the peace in some war zone. The local deputy, Martinez, got so used to the calls, I swear he started using our street as his break spot. He'd show up, ask Belinda to move her car, get a lecture on community standards, and drive off. 10 minutes later, she'd be back in position, sunglasses on, Range Rover purring. Then came the storm. One night, a wicked system rolled through and knocked down 2 huge black pines. Behind my lot, real monsters, the kind you can't get your arms around. City tagged them for removal, gave everyone 2 weeks to clear them or face fines. Knowing Belinda would be watching, I went overboard. Licensed crew, permits from the city, and, believe it or not, the HOA emailed the whole board, posted on the website, even walked a paper notice to every door, including Belinda's. Of course, she fired back with a 17-paragraph email about beautification committee review, called a special meeting deliberately after my removal date, and signed off with so many self-appointed HOA titles it looked like a resume for a dictatorship. Tuesday morning, 7:58 sharp, Belinda staged her Range Rover like it was part of a parade, laminated sign on the windshield, gate closed for aesthetic review, Comic Sans, no less. She sipped her oat milk latte, triumphant. At 8:12, the logging truck arrived, a beast of a machine, with a driver who looked like he'd seen every flavor of crazy suburbia had to offer. He stopped, calmly honked, and waited. Belinda, ever the warrior queen, marched up in her athleisure, brandishing her iPad and a thick stack of bylaws. She told the driver he couldn't enter, that only the beautification committee, her, obviously, could approve trucks. The driver, polite as a preacher, asked her to move. She refused, reciting rules like an incantation. That's when Deputy Martinez rolled up, coffee in hand, already tired. I handed him every permit, neatly organized, while he sized up Belinda's blockade. Except this time. She'd parked smack in front of a fire lane and a utility easement. That's a tow, ma'am, he said, voice all official. You're blocking emergency access. Belinda went through the stages of grief in 10 seconds, denial, anger, bargaining. But before she could move her car, she realized she'd locked her keys and phone inside, the latter still recording her supposed victory. So now we're all waiting for a tow truck or locksmith, whichever came first. The logging crew tried to reposition, inching the truck back and forth. Narrow street, a real Tetris situation. And then, physics did its thing. The log cradle swung wide, caught the Rover's front quarter panel, and just folded it. Not a smash, more like a slow-motion ballet of steel and European luxury. Every neighbor within sight suddenly had somewhere urgent to be outside. Phones out, dogs walked, sprinklers adjusted. Belinda lost it, shrieking about vehicular homicide against a British national, which, come on, she demanded every bit of info from the driver, who just pointed at the deputy and shrugged, trying to avoid a safety hazard. Deputy Martinez, now in documentation mode, started snapping photos, logging permits, and, chef's kiss, pulled up the HOA map proving my gate was emergency access, never to be blocked. The insurance adjuster who arrived looked like she'd rather be anywhere else. She asked Belinda why. Her license plate had painter's tape over the month sticker, Belinda said for aesthetics, but the registration had been expired for months. The neighbors, still in pajamas and slippers, gathered like they were at a block party, streaming everything live to Facebook. By noon, the whole saga was online, and years of pent-up neighbor frustration about Belinda was flooding the comments. That night's emergency HOA meeting, standing room only. Someone hooked up the projector, and suddenly we were all watching the best of Belinda reel, her blocking an ambulance, threatening to take away mailbox privileges, which isn't a thing, and this morning's Range Rover disaster, captured from every angle. The piece de resistance? Her own phone footage, where she announced her plan to teach that gate-loving libertarian a lesson. Even Harold, who always sided with Belinda, voted to suspend her, unanimously, right there on the spot. Dorothy, the quiet secretary, read the motion. With a smile you could feel all the way to the back row. But it wasn't over. The city hit Belinda with a $3,000 fine for blocking the easement. The fire marshal tacked on $1,500 more for the fire lane and told her it'd stay on her record if she ever tried to join another HOA. The adjuster handed over a denial letter for the Range Rover, $42,000 in damage, not covered, since the whole thing was willful negligence. Belinda turned so many shades of red and white, it was almost impressive. The room went quiet, everyone just soaking in the moment. The reign of Belinda, queen of bylaws, finally toppled by her own obsession with rules. Now, maybe you're thinking, serves her right. Or maybe you wonder if we all got a little too much satisfaction out of one woman's comeuppance. But out here, where a gate or a gravel path can start a civil war, sometimes all it takes is one truck, one camera, and a whole lot of pent-up frustration to change everything. So tell me, was justice served, or did we just create another villain? Drop your take in the comments. Hit that like if you've ever dealt with HOA drama, and share this story with someone who loves a little suburban karma.